Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Live Bell Analysis with FX Evolution. Hello to everyone out there. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have a lot to cover, including a few pretty good technical lessons, I think, that'll help everyone just to improve and kind of always heighten and get better at, I guess, just general technical analysis. Just a quick shout out to everyone out there. Have a whole bunch of usuals in the room. We've got Shane, we've got Dr. Horton. Hello, Siddharth. Good to see you. We also have a shout out here to Benny. Good comment there. Is anyone else reading the title as Stock Market Tesla Bull Live? Wouldn't take it that far, Benny, but yep. Perry, Pa, good to see you again. Maria, obviously always good to see you in here as well. And we've got Matthew, Kid, John, Speeder, Z-Hang, everybody's here, Ryan as well. So really good to see so many people out, and it's excellent to obviously be running these live streams. Sorry we couldn't make it yesterday, but yeah. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I know I said I would draw the live $520 prize, $20 donated by Shane, by the way, but I cannot do it today. You know, why is that? Because YouTube do not allow me to actually get the subscriber list. I've been trying. I spent 2 hours trying to get this list out. You cannot get the list. I would have to copy list manually, 50 at a time, and go through the whole thing. So what we're going to have to do is tomorrow I'll be releasing a video. Please make sure you comment in that video with any kind of just basically a message that says FX Evolution. Now, if you say FX Evolution in the comments, I'll be able to tag that. I'll draw it, and then we'll get that sent out to the lucky winner. Very sorry about that, everybody. Just not possible to pull the subscriber list. I thought it was. It's been taken away as an option, of course, like everything else on these platforms nowadays. Hey, MC, by the way, I see you out there. Yo, Gendra. Good to see everyone. I'm not going to be able to say hello to everybody, but thank you very much. All right, so we've got, with that out of the way, hopefully everyone understands, we have quite a lot of information to cover. Now, we're going to be doing a little bit of learning with this session. We're going to be looking at the live pre-market analysis, obviously, and we're also going to be talking about a little bit of what's going on in the news this week. Obviously, to start off with, we have US stock futures, obviously, sitting pretty neutral, a little bit down ahead of the first Trump-Biden debate. It's going to be a pretty important one. Just with the comment for FX Evolution, it'll be in tomorrow's video there, Aspen. So yeah, US stock futures pause ahead of first Trump-Biden debate. I would think that we are going to see some mixture of volatility coming in, but that really won't change too much from some of the key technicals we'll be talking about today. There are some technicals in terms of this little bit of bullish momentum that we've seen in the S&P. It could actually pull back to a very key zone. We'll talk about that in the 1 hour. A few of you might have that already. And in terms of what time is it is going to be important. So obviously my time being 10 p.m. right now, we're looking at 11 a.m. to 12:30, and that's on Wednesday for me. So obviously, depending on your time zone, depending on where you are, it will be after market hours regardless. So really, it's going to be probably Wednesday bell and the Asian and European stock market futures sessions that we see the ramifications of maybe how this plays out. FC Shopping, good to see you here for the first time. All right, so thank you very much for all the congratulations on the 20K as well. Really appreciate all the subscribers out there and everyone that has been supporting the channel. Matthew says, Tom, I think you can use an application that automatically randomly chooses a subscriber. If you could pull the list, Matthew. If you can find me that, please send it to me. I'm happy to draw it live. If someone finds me something and I can get it set up, I will draw it live. Should be a way to script auto-grabbing the sub-list, if you were as smart as that, yes. I might be good at TA, but I cannot pull the list. They've actually limited it, so you can only pull 50 at a time, max. So a bit of a pain there. Now, let's just quickly go through the S&P 500 and what's been happening. And I want to talk to everyone about morning stars and evening stars. Specifically, we'll talk about morning stars here. And we'll just quickly go through, I guess, what happens and why we want to see really good formation on candlestick kind of formations overall. So here, if you search in Google, you will actually see what is a morning star, and then it has a picture like this. That's a bad picture. But overall, if you go through it, it'll have a whole bunch of different explanations of what they are. So say like this one here, this aim arrow, it's actually not too bad. And over here is not too bad either in terms of the expectation. Now you'll notice this one has two gap zones. So you have a gap break down and a gap break up. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because when you're doing analysis of Morningstars or you're doing analysis in general TA wise, we want to make sure we understand the actual psychology of the market and what the market's telling us. So here we have SPX, obviously the real market. We have the weekly, and we're talking about this more from an investment standpoint. How do we kind of get very comfortable with our investments for the longer term? Well, morning stars and evening stars and those types of things are so important. And when we have a gap breakdown like we have here and then a gap break up, it shows pretty much the right formation for a very, very good pattern. So let's talk about this. We have a selling market. We obviously have 3 weeks of selling down. That's the 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter how long this would be. We're basically in a bit of a downtrend. We then gap down, make it low, fully reject that low, and effectively create, not really a strong pin bar or hammer because it's not that close to the top, but definitely a rejection candle. Then the next week comes out of the gates very strong. Now it hasn't closed yet, but notice it gaps up. The importance of both these points is that we have a gap down showing bearish psychology in the market, and then we have a gap up showing bullish psychology in the market, actually followed by, of course, the bullish pickup off the previous support being around that 3200. So if this was to close bullish and obviously a strong candle where we have a strong close above probably the 3400 zone, this isn't just showing us that there should be longs in the market. It's showing us that there probably will be not only new highs, but all-time highs, because we're going to get a point where this pattern here doesn't happen that often. When it does happen, it signifies a lot more. And that kind of gapping, closing, and momentum overall is very important. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but it's the kind of thing that we want to be doing when it comes to TA. We want to actually understand the market, understand the gaps, understand the closes. Hopefully that makes some sense, but think about every candle formation, every candle pattern, every single thing as the psychology of the market, and it will change the way that you look at the market. So I just wanted to mention that at the beginning of this. If anyone's watching this video back as well when we upload it later, evening stars, morning stars, hammers, understand the psychology of what it's telling you. So yeah, that I think is one big thing. How do we send you things? Pa says you can send us to, just send it to thomas@fxevolution.com, and you can absolutely send that to me and I'll have a look at it. Thanks very much. So thomas@fxevolution.com. All right, we'll just read a couple of these quick questions. Dr. Horton says, good at TA, but not at IT. I'm not bad at IT, I'm just not good at scripts. Hemivol says, made a huge mistake that I did not get out of my short when we hit the weekly MA. Just now hoping that we will retouch again after yesterday's ride. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit more. So we obviously did that weekly. Now, some people are calling this, I think, also a Morningstar. I usually like to see a bullish kind of movement here where we actually see it equal to the bearish movement, and I like to see them kind of more defined at the zone. But yeah, this you could, I guess, technically look at it that way, not as strong. What I would say though is break this one down into things like a 4-hour and then break it down into a 1-hour chart. And what you'll notice is when you look at this on a futures or any market, what have we got in terms of key points? Well, I would argue that this is a very key point. We've got previous resistance that got gapped up and broken above. We had it kind of like a bull out of the gates on Monday. We're going into, of course, the end of the month, being we are going into quarter rotation, which is always an important thing in the stock markets. Quarter rotation, monthly rotation for the big stock funds, getting ready to kind of rebalance all their zones and rebalance their amounts. And then we've got 2 moving averages at this point as well. So what if the market was to pull back to previous resistance over the next kind of like maybe today? Is that a good potential buy zone? Well, it certainly is, because really what we're looking at is a bit of a base formation and a nice pullback for traders into the 2 moving average point. So whenever we can get into a 2 moving average point, What do these moving averages do, the 20 and the 50? They act as dynamic support. So we've got that dynamic support there. We've also got the previous resistance, which becomes support itself in role reversal. And on top of that, we also probably are going to have a fib. So let's draw up that fib there and see whether we have a fib of the whole move. Now, I'll just take the fib from the bottom, but you'll probably find that the fib really overlays on both points. We've got a 23.6 fib that lines up with this point, and we'll have a 20 by the time if it does come back down on the 1 hour. So for anyone that scalps or day trades or looks at the market, this could be a zone that you can jump into the smaller timeframes, look for confirmation, or even potentially just look at, you know, potential opportunities. Now, obviously you make your own decisions, but that's the kind of way that I approach the markets. I always think, is there a key zone? Is there an opportunity? There could certainly be an opportunity at this point. Okay, so Robbie says probably officially no stimulus till election announced. Absolutely. I would say that the stimulus could be a little bit off now, and that election announcement, is that believed tomorrow? Is that Robbie? Shane says, giggles, I am a stock picker, so only hold 6 stocks. The whole market doesn't always affect me. Yeah, look, sometimes you can go into certain sectors and you don't necessarily need to be affected by the whole market. You might choose defensive sectors and they do better, of course, during these times of crisis. If you choose growth sectors, like maybe the tech stocks, or you grow or you go into other growth areas, often they'll have higher volatility on them. But like a utility at the beaten down price they are now, they're starting to get into more of a, like maybe a little bit less, I guess you would say, like volatility in general. Remember to keep those comments coming in throughout the live stream. We'll definitely answer as many as we can. It always makes the room really great when you answer questions or ask questions. As much as I can, I try to answer them, so definitely keep them coming in. Currently, 1 hour candle is under MA. So if we go to the real market, being the US 500, now remember, we should do our analysis generally on the SPX if we can, then we are going to see different moving averages. That's correct. So remember, there's a big difference between futures market and real market. The real market is really the one that dictates most of the TA, and the futures market is what dictates the noise. So if you've been always looking at the futures market and not looking enough at SPX, you should certainly bring SPX onto the chart. So it really won't change my analysis too much. Really what I'm talking about is this zone here. You're going to have a 50 exponential there anyway, and that's obviously the previous high, so around this 3220-ish zone. So yeah, I like to use always real market whenever possible, and futures really just to do more general analysis. Remember, always the close is the most important point. When the market closes the candle, especially the dailies, that's always the key chart to be looking at. So, did anyone get into silver? Tell me, did anyone get into a buy silver the start of this week? I'm very interested to know if someone got this one. I think I mentioned in the weekly video, we obviously did have this long-term trend line that we brought up last time. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this trend line overall, but I am a fan of the price action in terms of the bullish hammer, and then, of course, seeing follow through after that point. So would you be buying it on the pullback here? No, but what you can do is you can buy it at this point when it breaks through. Now, where to for silver? Well, we've got 2 moving averages here on the daily, and we can see that there's this 24 kind of 80 zone, which was previous resistance into the 25. So silver could certainly be on a little bit of a pullback train here, and it is making a series of good kind of price action. We've got obviously a trough, a peak, a higher trough, and then a higher peak. So we've got the correct lightning bolt movement here. Often the market will move a similar distance and a similar distance down. So will we see that continue, where effectively this move here becomes a very similar move again. Let's just grab that again. Becomes a very similar move again, hits the 50, rejects, pulls back very similarly to what it did over here, and then goes for that final push up to the 25. Definitely could be on the cards, and that really brings in why we should always look at things like dollar index as well. If you're someone that just trades stocks, sometimes it's worthwhile broadening your horizons into some currencies and maybe some metals and things like that. There are definitely always great opportunities. Let's have a look now at the general market across the board for today. So here's finviz.com, the stock screener we always look at. Silver has been the performer of the day, and that's why I brought it up. $1.49 on for silver. VIX 31.25. So overall, we've actually seen a little bit of an increase in the VIX in head of the debate. Makes sense why the markets are slightly off. We've got 0.22 down in the futures here on the S&P after big day. Nasdaq down a little bit as well in the futures. And overall, just really a couple of the metals up, while US dollar gets back down into that previous kind of resistance, which could act as support zone. So let's have a look at the dollar index right now and bring that one up as a chart. Dollar index, always worthwhile checking out. Here we have dollar index. You'll notice it just hit the 94 and was aggressively bought off. See that 93.99, super aggressive buy off, instantly up quite a few points. You expect this to happen. 94 was a key break area, so therefore 93.80 to 94 is going to be a key buy zone. We're basically at the point when you're in the range of now looking for potential opportunities on dollar index strength. If you're looking at role reversal, you're looking at a general kind of market structure. Previous resistances often act as support, and you do usually see some pickup action throughout this point here. You also want to draw things like fibs at this zone as well. If we draw fibs of the market, we can see whether they overlay with the current areas. And we've got a 38.2 touch just as it touches the 50 and the 94. So it makes sense there'd be US dollar buying pressure at this point right now. Definitely worthwhile always looking at dollar index. And when you look at dollar index, it also therefore makes sense to other things as well. When it broke through this support here on the 4 hour, we were probably going to see weakness. 94.20 gets broken, probably going to come down to 94. And that instantly opens up something like the Euro US dollar. And the Euro US dollar is the one that I actually drew up today. And I want to show you the drawing that I put in the private Discord community. If you're ever interested, by the way, of joining up to our private Discord community, you can go to fxevolution.com. And yes, it is a paid service, but it's pretty minimal. And you actually can try a 7-day trial as well if you want to check it out. So here's one of the classic things that I always look for in the market. And I want to talk to everyone about it because I think it offers a lot of insight into great market structure. So firstly, we had a few touches to the zone. We've got what I like to call the 1, 2, 3, but we actually have 4 touches. So we have the first touch, the second touch, the third touch to resistance, and the fourth touch. And this was all today, this morning in the Asian session. We also have a cross of the 20 and the 50 moving average. Remember, this is all on the 1 hour. Could be a 4 hour, could be a daily, I don't care which chart in exactly. And we've got a base being formed after a severe downtrend. We know it was in a downtrend, and then we have the accumulation kind of zones. So we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, but we've also got great structure coming into it. We've got a series of higher lows and equal highs. So higher lows and equal highs, and that's telling us the market is bullish in momentum. So the market's really aggressive and it's looking towards the break. It's basically slowly kind of getting up there, and then we generally will see a break up followed by a quick pullback, and then that's really an excellent entry. Because if we enter off that zone, you'll notice we only have to necessarily have our stops potentially below the last swing. We just put our stops below the last market structure swing. We have a clear take profit being the 50 EMA on the 4 hour, and it all kind of makes so much sense to the US dollar also getting cracked under that 94.20. Then we go into the euro. Let's have a look at how it played out and just talk about this, because I do think it's just a really great classic case of market structure doing the right thing. So notice this, 2 bullish hammers coming into the break, breaks out, you think, it's all gone, comes back, instantly touches the zone where it hit the resistance. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4 hits, and then bang, straight back in. And then look how it hits this zone up here, which I had drawn, and we go over and you'll notice it taps exactly that 50 EMA. So it's just that market structure. Now, do I think there's more in this? Possibly not, but it certainly did hit the zone. And I think it's always important to understand that that's a good level. Yeah, Shane says, Tom, it's already crossed. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to show people the power of a 1, 2, 3 market structure setup. So when you have so many resistance touches and then you break through, specifically if you highlight these 2 hammers coming in, this happens so often. So it's something that I kind of broke down. I kind of came up with this structure system where I looked for structure, I looked for at least multiple touches, and then whenever I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter if it's 20 touches to resistance, when it breaks something significant, when the candles show us great momentum going in, or we get a series of higher lows getting in, or even structure formation in a tighter coiling band, when that break happens, you can instantly take the pullback. So I just think that that's really cool to learn when you're getting into TA and you're getting into stuff that's interesting. I wish I knew that a long time ago. May seem simple, it's pretty good. Okay, so we'll definitely get into my thoughts on a whole bunch of other things, but hopefully that was a bit helpful and didn't bore you too much. So overall, we've got here a couple of questions. Tom, I'm still watching gold. Thoughts from Shane. So yeah, gold's very similar to, of course, our looks on silver. It hit a key technical being the 20 moving average, and it found bullish support. We've also got a double bottom on the 4 hour. We didn't quite get back down to the zone, but we certainly got just to the wicks, and it's kind of bought off that area. I think that we may have some US dollar strength coming back into the market, so I wouldn't be surprised to see gold come back down and test this, but that is certainly a double bottom, and it's a double bottom off the weekly 20 exponential moving average and the 1850 handle. So I'm still relatively bullish on gold as we're still in the crisis period, but gold is one of those things you want to time. Whenever you look at a big chart and you go to a monthly and you really think about it, it often has big runs on it for periods of time. Obviously, this is what happened over the GFC, and then it will go into massive slumps. So gold reacts positively towards quantitative easing, at least initially, and then it reacts really poorly over the long term to quantitative easing. So I'd always suggest that gold's good for a few years and then bad, and then you don't look at it. It's like copper. I use copper all the time. I call it Dr. Copper. Dr. Horton will like it out there for economic strength, but do I think that it's a cool thing to be using all the time in the markets? No, it's good for like 2-3 years and then it's useless again. Pab says, is TA still applicable on small cap stocks with low volume? So some TA people will just say, yeah, it's always applicable. The truth is, Pab, that the TA is a game of statistics. Obviously, you're trying to do it with making statistical choices where other people are also seeing, or the psychology is behind that. The TA in small cap stocks is the psychology of the participants that are trading that particular stock. And that's what you're reading in the technical analysis. Once you understand the technical analysis is the psychology of the traders, then you might see key resistance zones, let's say 20 cents or 10 cent areas in the penny stock, and they'll become important areas. Kind of like the old school method of reading just kind of the sheets and the dollar amounts. TA, in terms of putting on technicals and bringing on indicators and things like that, will not work on those kind of smaller stocks as well. They just don't have the trading volume, and they just don't trade that kind of way. It is more understanding the people and the participants in the market. It's kind of like Tesla, which we're going to look at later. Tesla is a hugely retail-driven stock, so it makes so much sense for you to trade it like a retail trader would. When things are hot, when you're going into news events, you buy it into the news event. When the news event comes out, you know it's probably going to disappoint, especially if the market's heated up way too hot, you sell it off. The unknown, obviously, news events will pump it very hard as well. Okay, so a couple other questions going on here, and thank you very much for bringing these in. No stimulus till election means downtrend in stocks probably, I believe, will be less than expected, but Dems and Republicans will agree on something to look good towards voters. I kind of agree with you, Yijit. So we had a couple of great questions come in here about what do we think about the stimulus. So it's not going to look good if the Democrats pull back on the stimulus, and then Trump accuses them, of course, of pulling back due to voting concerns. They will have to come to some kind of conclusion to make it applicable and good before the election. You would think they will get pressured in that. That's kind of my thoughts as well. I think it's going to be tough, not to get too political there. Ben Whaley says, yep, in silver, palladium, and a little bit of gold. Excellent, man. A few people in silver. Hopefully you've picked up some good levels. 3,500 on S&P 500, then pullback, Mark says. That's a pretty big move up. Obviously, what you're looking at is potentially even a bigger kind of pattern there, Mark, something that could be possible. So if we go to a daily and we consider what might happen, well, we should really be probably shorting off this daily 20 exponential moving average. It does make sense. It's shorted off it before. It shorted off it the first time as well. This is the US 500 futures here. But overall, look, you might get it up to like a 3,400 kind of zone, find some resistance. I think the Nasdaq showing really a good level as well, which we'll be looking at a little bit later. Shane says, Tom, is it too late to wait for a 20 to cross the 50 on US dollar? So when you're talking about that, are you saying the 4 hour, Shane, or what time frame? 2050s, you use them more as a guide of dynamic support and resistance. I don't use them too much as anything else. You can also use them to trail kind of stop losses behind. Maybe if you're trailing a 20, it gets hit like 3-4 times, and then you know that that's a respected level. You might trail your position by putting like a 35 MA behind it. And then that 35 MA effectively becomes a market adaptive trail. You never want to trail by just a fixed stop loss or anything like that. Radiant Thread says, I'm sort of a gold bug. I'm waiting for 1850 silver before buying. That's pretty low. I think 20 would be a very big high, very big pickup there for it. But fair enough. I understand that. VIX showed September flash crash ahead of time. Yeah, so with the VIX, if we actually have a look. Now, the VIX, obviously, depending on which one you use, will use different futures or different contracts based on everything that's going on. If we have a look at the VIX, we basically did see an increase in it. It's kind of smoothed out a little bit. Depends which one you looked at, but some of them spiked a lot more than others. Paul says, hi, Tom, can you look at Amazon? The daily looked interesting to me. Would like to know what you see. All right, we'll look at, let me write down a few of these, go old school here. We'll write down Amazon. We'll obviously look at Tesla as well, because I know that's a pretty big one. We'll check out NEO, just because I think a few people want to see it. We'll do that very soon. Mark says, hey, FX, do you recommend any books for chart technical analysis, specifically for day trading? I think Van Tharp's book on psychology is really good, and just the way of understanding, market kind of, I guess you would say, like trading, and the fact that you need to be very, very diligent, and numbers and things like that. I think technical analysis, it can be taught, but books are very, very difficult on it. Okay, a few other questions coming in here. So many questions. Thank you very much. Do you ever use curved trend lines? No, I don't, Pa, but that's an interesting one. Farid says, evening, Tom. What do you think about the debate tomorrow? How will it affect the markets? I think I don't really know how it'll affect it, Farid. I'd be lying if I did. Probably negatively. It depends what really is happening more in put calls, in what Wall Street wants to do. They're just going to make up an excuse overall. We are seeing a decrease in puts in the market as well. So we've seen put call ratio drop for a couple of consecutive days here. If we take a look, yeah, that's yesterday's one, 1.51 reading. We had a 1.56 and a 1.56, and then I think it was a 1.8. So puts overall are reducing in the market right now. Absolutely. How do we see the Dow performing today? So it's not one that we often look at, is it, the old Dow? It gets a bit of hate from me. And that's just because I think that it used to be really the trendsetter and leader for TA. And I think now it's more about the S&P 500. So overall, look, the Dow still presents good opportunities. I think the Dow is a bit messy right now. If we look, let's go to the weekly and just do a quick week analysis here. So we have it pulled back down to, of course, the 27,000 body closes here. It hit the 20, it went a little bit further. Check this out though. If you look at a daily, technically, and this is not even, this is why I wouldn't use the Dow necessarily as a good lead. And I almost did a video about it and I thought, no, I don't really want to use the Dow as a lead. This is actually a head and shoulders. And you can see that it is. I mean, you've got the left shoulder, you've got the right shoulder, and you've got the head. And you can see it's come back to the neckline. So, I think it's very hard to say it really isn't at this point. It's obviously off a uptrend that happened here. That's important. We know this is a critical point for the market, was previous resistance over here. And when we go back over to the candle chart, we'll notice that. Now, another top tip, if you don't use line charts enough, definitely consider doing them. Notice how it just instantly cleans it up. I like to see whether my pattern is formed on the lines, because the lines are the close price. So if they're formed on the lines, it's a little bit better. So we're really in that zone. If we were drawing up like a rectangular zone beneath this area here, we can see that we had previous resistance, we had a breakout, come back and test around this zone, find a new high, or just tap that 29,000 and go slightly above, come back down, find the right shoulder here. I don't like the right shoulder as much because it's higher than the left shoulder. I've mentioned this quite a few times. You want to have the right shoulder smaller than the left shoulder to show momentum and then basically participation in the market towards the direction. And we're back at this key zone. So my thoughts are on the Dow is that for the Dow stocks, you want to probably see it sell off here, at least for the technical to play out. And that head did not go the distance. The distance is much bigger than what it ended up going. So it should go this distance. It did not go anywhere near that. Let me just pull this over and show everybody where it should have gone. That's where it should have gone. We should have seen it go all the way down to at least a 26,000. And we did not even see close to that. We got a lot further. And that's kind of like the Nasdaq as well. The Nasdaq undershot. The only one that hit the target, or very close to the target, was the S&P. It's literally the only one. Pab says, cheers, Tom. Love your work. Thank you very much. Jimmy Bierio, the market is run by algos. What the hell could Biden and Trump add to our society? Nothing. I'm not going to get into that, Jimmy, but overall, yes, the market does have a ton of algorithms in it. That's why some key technical areas are actually so important, because the algos get involved in it very quickly. They'll often push it through the level, it pulls back quickly, and then they move very aggressively in that direction. How do we see the markets overall today? I think the markets will be mostly kind of neutral, probably a little bit down. I would think risk off would be probably my approach if I was concerned about maybe something crazy being said in these debates. The debate should add some volatility to the market. We should probably see at least 1% to 2% kind of switches there off the debates themselves. Let's load up a few charts now and talk about some of the stocks in the market. So obviously talked about that dollar index. We'll go back to that a little bit later into the market open. Let's talk about Tesla quickly. Another interesting one that trades a lot off sentiment. We'll go through some more questions here. And I forgot you, Shane. I did hear the Kramer get activated. Thank you very much. So Shane is giving me $10. Thank you very much. $10 odd. Tom Coffee Fund. Appreciate that, Shane. I'm definitely drinking coffee way too many times. If anyone doesn't know, I do love all kinds of coffee. Big fan of obviously that particular addiction. So thank you very much there, Shane. Do you consider using RSI? Yes, we absolutely do use RSI in the correct circumstances. I'm not a huge fan of bringing indicators on the charts until I've found the levels that I like, and then I use the indicators more to qualify, I guess, the area. So I basically want to know what's going on. So I like to know what the price is doing. Everything else, make my own decisions, then use the indicators. So here we've got pretty much what's going on with Tesla. Now, Tesla is a key kind of sentiment stock in the markets right now. We have here quite a few things. Well, firstly, we've got this 450 kind of psychological level. Now, what do we know about Tesla? It likes trading very much like a standard newer buyer or seller would do. It likes 50s and it likes 100s. So 50s and 100s will become key again for sell points and take profit points. And you'll see slight kind of pull-ups above them and slight sell-offs below them, just to kind of stop out a few maybe buyers and sellers that are going to be around those ranges. You might see like a $10 variance off those points. So we hit the 450, we found resistance ahead of the battery day, obviously sold off after that hype and anticipation, and now we're above again this kind of zone. We're coming back down to two moving averages around the 410, probably see some buying pressure there today, and then if it hits the 450 resistance, for anyone that likes a good breakout and a good trade, you always want to be looking 450 resistance. We've got one touch, two touches, kind of a few touches through here. What do we know about Tesla? If it consolidates here and breaks out, it's going to be a super aggressive breakout. This is one of the stocks where when it breaks out, it doesn't always come back down and retest the previous resistance. It just goes boom. And it could go straight into like a 520 quite easily from going through this zone. So I'd always set up this area and set like an alert and then obviously make your own decisions. But this, depending on the price action coming in here, depending on how it looks, if it gets through that 450, it could be explosive off the break. So I quite like Tesla from that aspect. If we check out the daily, overall, pretty standard kind of stuff. Seeing aggressive moves to the buy side. Sentiment can shift very quickly here. So really the 450 is a key target. And if you're in it long, then that would still be your target, wouldn't it? I mean, around that resistance zone makes the sense. Thomas Slav says, can you check out Miso? So Miso is Miso Blast. This is a Australian stock, isn't it? I assume this is the Nasdaq version. So yeah, it's coming out in front of news, and we're obviously seeing it hit this resistance just below the $20. It has broken through, no close above the 20. The thing with these type of stocks, whenever they go to this point, and I did bring it up for a reason because you said it was ahead of news. Notice how, when's the news coming out? Sounds like tomorrow. It buys straight into the resistance point. Now, it'll be an explosive open most likely with a stock like this, and then it will probably sell off after the explosive open, especially if the news is relatively good. That's the way it's generally acted. Look at this. It's been explosive, moved high, often it can be only for a few minutes, and then it's moved lower during the day. Generally, it seems to have not held the news event whenever these spikes have come through. And I'm sure most of these are news events based on my knowledge of this stock. So yeah, it's a classic case of straight into the resistance. If it breaks through, it'll do something stupid, and then it most likely will sell into the close of the day, just based on pure sentiment of how it's traded before. Do you think the February highs will act as resistance in the future? So I assume you're talking about, I'm not sure which one you're talking about there, Levy. I'll check that out soon. Martin says, hi all, I'm a new investor. I've been watching your vids daily for a week or two now, and the first time I've hopped into live. Not into TA, but appreciate the different outlook nevertheless. Thanks a lot for the vids. No worries, Martin. So with TA, even if you're a fundamental kind of guy or your market sentiment or whatever you want to be, Martin, always consider that TA is just the psychology of the market. And remember that if you can find key levels and you can chart them, maybe you just want to go super basic horizontal support resistance, look for key psychological points. If you're trading a stock that is worth $500, then every $50 and every $100 range is going to be a key level generally in those markets. Ramel says, impressive analysis. Thank you very much, Ramel Ali. Appreciate that. Tesla seldom shows love to the retesters like me, Siddharth says. Absolutely. It is not a good conservative buy kind of stock. You do not conservative buy Tesla ever. Because the thing is, it just goes off. It goes off. And it's cool. It's like a rocket ship, hey? But when it does it, it does it. So interestingly, we have weakness on copper today. And we've had basically copper stuck between the 20 and the 50. Now, it's really putting pressure back on this 295. Now, many people will know, if you subscribe to the channel, you've been watching our videos recently, I take a lot of stock in copper. If copper is strong and copper is holding key technicals, I consider that very bullish for the market over the longer term, at least for the next couple of years. If copper starts to weaken, I consider that a lead indicator for weakness in the market. We have seen copper back testing this 295. Now, I think if we get a body close underneath this 50 exponential moving average, so let's say we got like a 293 close, even if we didn't make a new low, we could be seeing a 280 copper, and that would be quite bearish for the market. If copper bared, so let's say copper went down like this and the market barely moved and it got to 280, I would think that's very negative for the market overall, and I would be very concerned about market price being fair at that point. If we do see copper close below or wick below this point here, then that's obviously a super bearish sign. We've got a peak, we've got a trough, we've got a lower peak, and then of course we get a lower trough overall. Be very bearish for copper, and at this point is certainly putting pressure on the bear side. Thanks very much for all the subscriptions out there. We will be doing just a quick mention. We've got about 522 people here. I know I said I would be doing the live draw of the giveaway tonight. I have to do it in tomorrow's video. It'll be in the video after that, but basically I can't pull a subscriber list correctly. So please comment in tomorrow's video with the word I'll say at the beginning of the video. Comment down below. I'll draw it from that, and it means that your odds, if you're listening to this, are even better because I'll just be drawing from that video's comment section. So $520 to give away to a lucky, I guess in this case, commenter and subscriber, of course. ZM, yeah, we'll definitely check out ZM. So we'll look at Zoom. I know it's a massive favorite of obviously people right now in the markets. It's super bullish and super scary in terms of price action. I don't think there's a huge amount of really good trading going on here. I think it's mostly sentiment and it's probably overbought. That just goes with my general instincts about this share. If I was to say, oh, I think Zoom's a great buy right now, I mean, to me, it's not. It's a trade, and it's also a bit terrifying at current levels. If you're a Zoom holder, you really want to be setting your area of about 465, 460. This range or area, and remember it's a range, is going to be critical to your market success or failure as a bull. Basically, we break through here. You're seeing on smaller time frames a double top formation. We've got an intervening trough here, and we're obviously breaking through the 20 exponential moving average as well when it gets back down. That's held the market relatively well the last 2 to 3 times it's come down to this point. So 460 is the battle zone. That's where the bulls and the bears will have a scrap. If it gets through that point, it's going to trade very similarly to a double top, and it could go into even blow off phase, which is a phase which you don't want to be part of, where basically the market would pull back very aggressively and potentially all the way back into the lows over here, or even further back into previous resistance at the 300. There's a lot of very questionable structure around here. And it's not really something I like to be part of, but if you're in the bull run and you got in cheap and you're happy with the company and you believe in it fundamentally and you want to hold it for a long time, obviously that's your decision. From a trading base standpoint, it's hit resistance twice, rejected aggressively the second time, barely even held the price, which is also bearish. So the 460, this 465, 460, the battle zone for Zoom. Marina Griffiths says, really enjoy your analysis of the charts. Thank you. No problems. Absolutely. So that's my opinion, Kim. It's one of those ones that a lot of people are in because there's a lot of profit being made right now, and it's the hot stock, but hot stocks become not hot very, very quickly. And when they become not hot, they become super toxic. Zoom's not as bad as some of the others. So Neo is an interesting formation, and I think this is fair to think that it's in a bit of a nice coiling holding pattern here and starting to create a very nice range. Now we've obviously got the previous ascending triangle broke through very aggressively, beautiful buy up on the 15 here. And overall, it's generally been holding the 20 moving average. So it's looking relatively bullish right now in terms of a stock. And from the next perspective though, the price action is very, very tough to read on this because it's up, down and all around. So you pretty much have to go down to even smaller time frames. Will I be drawing like wedging here or anything? Probably not. I just jump down and down through the time frames and then make my decisions on whether I think there's good buy zones or not. We obviously have a clear resistance through this 1830. We've got so many moving averages here on the 1 hour, the 200, the 20 and the 50, which usually act as dynamic support, which they did. We've got a break structure here at around 19, so it stopped just before the 19, wicked through, no body close. If you get a body close there, then it probably trades to the 19 kind of 50 zone. You can see it's kind of chunking 50 cents. I just see that straight away. We have 50 cent support buy. We have 50 cent just before 50 cent support sells. Tells me instantly, as soon as I see this chart, retail traders all over this, and it's being manipulated as such. So the 50 cents are clearly the points, and you don't want to just take the 50 cent take profit. You want to take slightly before that zone if you're buying into it, just like over here. And you want to take, of course, slightly the other way as well when you're looking at the sells. If you're selling down, you want 18, you might not get 18. You might get 18.04 or 18.03. So to me, this chart is really telling me it's trading 50-cent blocks right now. I'd certainly be paying attention to that. Mike Robinson says copper is a market indicator. Pretty much. Yeah, absolutely, Mike Robinson. Definitely. Buzzblood says, sounds good, Tom. No worries, Buzz. Thank you very much. Zoom scares me, says Roman. Absolutely, Roman. Zoom scares me as well. It's just another one of those stocks that's going super hectic coming in. Let's have a look at the market in terms of pre-market. We'll bring on this Webull. Definitely not sponsored by Webull, but I'm in the works to get my proper templates and everything up. Hopefully I'll be able to get that done soon. We use Iris here in Australia, and it's very painful to get it set up for everyone. Anyway, so we've got here pre-market overall. We've got National Grid, GoDaddy, Square to be notable, I guess, is in the up kind of ticks pre-market. Coca-Cola as well, doing relatively well, back almost testing up near that $50 range, which will be important. Might check that out later. Tesla coming in 1.12 down. And I saw overall it's pretty flat across the board. Activision down slightly as well, a stock that I always look at. And AMD surprisingly holding very bullish ahead of their new announcements. They've obviously got a new CPU announcement, and they've also got their graphics card announcements and everything else coming out very soon. So AMD is one of those ones that's been performing very, very well, but again, incredibly cyclical when it comes to stuff, when it comes to events. This week ahead, so we've got the debate. We've also got some basic kind of FOMC kind of announcements and things like that. And we've got a whole bunch of CNY bank holidays. So we've got a lot of Chinese bank holidays, which means the Asian session's been relatively quiet. So that's another reason why the futures are pretty bad right now, I guess you would say. At the end of the week, non-farm payrolls. We will be doing a live stream of non-farm payrolls this week, as we always do. It's customary every month to do the non-farm payrolls Friday. So make sure, of course, if you haven't already subscribed, come check that one out. I think you'll enjoy the fun time we have around possibly one of the most volatile economic events during each month. Always a good thing to stick around for. Google dude says candlestick analysis will burst the bubble at some time. Yeah, well, it's possible. Anything's possible, mate. Marina Griffith says, can you look at Zillow? I might check that out a little bit later. I said I'd look at Amazon as well, so we'll definitely do that right now. I mean, I'm sticking here looking at Neo. Might as well definitely look at Amazon. So Amazon has been pretty bullish, pretty decent. Let's go to the bigger time frames. We'll go to the weekly just to start off with. Talk about that support that we had last week when we were talking about it. So it hit that 2900 zone again, found support, bullish, aggressively pulled off this. I guess a few things to always say when we're in when you're not getting news on these companies as well, and you see wild pullbacks in aggressive stocks, it makes sense that when they hit supports, because they're not value stocks, they're not the ones that are beaten down right now, the bullish momentum when sentiment's still so strong, when things go well, is incredibly aggressive. And that's what we saw here on Amazon. Incredibly aggressive moves there. Came off that support very, very nicely. Now we've broken to a new high. We've got a confirmation, pretty much it looks like, close above this zone. Pre-market, we're at 31.78. We're currently trading, we closed at a 31.74. So we've closed to a new high. It's basically a little lightning bolt. We've got a trough, we've got a peak, we've got a higher trough, and now I've got a higher peak. We're through the moving averages as well. It's pretty aggressive there on the daily from what we're seeing. And then when we go down to a 4 hour, very, very similar. A whole bunch of moving averages here as well. Potential pullback in the market, maybe even today, could pull us down to this price. We've got a 50 exponential, 200, and a 20 will meet it at that point as well. Decent amount of buying pressure through here. I think that's very important when you're looking at market structure. So overall, I don't mind the zone of this 31.20 area. It does seem to make some sense from a TA perspective. It's more of a probably trade than long-term investment. I don't think you're getting super dip buying potential here, but you're always getting decent area. Any thoughts on GBD? I assume you might mean Great British Pound, or do you mean GBD? Because I'm not sure about this particular stock. I don't know that much. You can let me know there, Rory. Tell me which one you're looking at. Paul, no worries, Horseman. I did that Amazon for you. So Amazon's still very, very strong company overall. Obviously doing very well out of this crisis. A lot of moving averages and support at 31.20. Farid Isham says, Tom, can you analyze the bond markets and does it in any way correlate with the stock market? Thank you. Yeah, I'll do a session on that, especially when we're out of probably this election month and things slow down a little bit. I want to do a whole bunch of live streams where we talk about a whole lot of subjects, and one of them will be bond correlation to the stock market. Bonds are incredibly correlated. Of course they are, because when money flows out of the stocks, it generally goes to bonds. It's got a lot to do with quarter rotation as well, and all of those kind of things. So bonds very, very important to the stock market in terms of synergies. I can't look at all these stocks overall, everybody, just because there's a lot of stocks here. They're very specific to you, and obviously I like to keep the stocks as much as I can to broad interest, I guess. Kevon says, Tom, can you probably take a look at odd US dollar 1 hour as an example of viewers? Nice double bottom formation. Learned that one from you, and it took a nice 1 to 3 trade. I also took that. So I can talk about it, yes. So this was a great formation and a very, very nice little trade. Again, it is a technical analysis trade on a currency and not a stock. Doesn't matter. The same system will apply. So there's a few things that are nice about this. Number one, you're back on a critical zone. Now in currency, a lot of people don't know this, 70-20 or the 20 cent and the 80 cent are very important areas. It's because of a whole bunch of things to do with stop hunting and the way that double zeros work. But overall, it's a very, very nice zone. So we had previous resistance and resistance 3 times through this area. Broke through, was good. The first touch to this zone is always going to act as support, but we don't want to necessarily just buy a falling knife. This is absolutely a falling knife. Generally at the end of falling knives, you see some form of accumulation and then you see buying pressure. Now in this case, we saw exactly that. We go down to the 4 hour and we have here a very clear double bottom, very, very nice double bottom, very nice pullback into the 20 as well. The confirmation close here above the double bottom point, pretty standard kind of formation. We have a slightly low point here for the double bottom. Some people prefer this because what they see it as is effectively market comes down, finds support. Buyers accumulate their position. They buy it up, comes down again, makes a new low, and then gets easily eaten up and buys long. What does that do? Well, firstly, all of these particular people that bought here, where'd they place their stop losses? A few pips underneath. They get stop hunted. Well, that sucks. They get stop hunted. These people then push the market back up because this is, of course, the market makers, the positioners, all those type of things. And then they close it through this zone and then it pulls back, hits the great 20 exponential moving average, which was acting as resistance, then becomes support, and then bounces very quickly up into the 50. Very similar to the Euro US dollar. All these trades were synergizing together at the exact same time. The key here is, though, this is not unusual. It is the pure essence of stop hunt. Happens in stocks as well. Essence of the stop hunt. Joseph Sigro says, which one is more interesting, Afterpay or PayPal? Probably, I don't know, about both, about as equal as each other. PayPal, obviously, my preferred because it's been around longer and I trust in the business, but both are incredibly priced. So here's got PayPal, 4 hour, similar lightning bolt, new high, probably see it come back down, test that zone. Could see some selling pressure again today. All the stocks are showing very similar setups. We've all got troughs, peaks, higher troughs, break of those peaks, a whole bunch of moving averages sitting around these pullback zones, and very, very similar. You'll notice it's almost all synergizing together, where they're all pulling back to key technical levels after hitting things like a 200 simple on a 1 hour. We saw the exact same thing on Amazon. So overall, yeah, they're all pretty similar. Now, if you're not familiar with this one, check out this, everybody. So let's have a let's have a quick look at an Australian share for a minute, just to show you when the government gets involved in the banking sector, what they do to banks. So here is basically a very nice buy level, of course, for National Australia Bank in Australia. We have previous resistances all acting as support, decent amount of little bit of accumulation going on over here. So let's go down to a 1 hour and just see this. So we have a little bit of buying pressure coming in. Obviously, a lot of this, I would say, is knowledge of the event. And then they relax lending laws straight into what? Previous resistance. Look at that. Bang, straight into resistance off the lending laws announcement, and then sells off. Very similar technical that we always see in the markets. Look at that resistance though. Wow. So many times it's tapped. Very good area to take out. It just shows you the power of the governments when they release basically news of relaxing lending laws. They're trying to create spending and borrowing and everything in Australia. They just spent billions of dollars investigating it, and now they're like, oh, no, don't worry, we're relaxing that. It's all right, just borrow some more money, please. Paul Horseman, thank you very much for $9.99. Always appreciate your insight, and I love coffee too. Thanks very much, Paul. Appreciate that, mate. Very much. Fake outs obvious. Jason Burt's come in. Fake outs obvious when rising price on lower volumes. He brings up a good and interesting point. So if we take a look at, let's say, Apple, and we just consider our little bit of, let's go to the daily here, and we consider the volumes that have come through recently, we do have a lack of high-end volume pushing the market up. It's not uncharacteristically low, though, on Apple. Let's have a look at a few other stocks that are pretty big on the market. Don't spell Microsoft wrong, and see whether the volumes are also uncharacteristically low. So here's the volumes, relatively okay, nothing too crazy. It is smaller than normal in some ways with the aggressive bullish momentum, but overall I don't think the volume is super low. It's a good point though, Jason. I think it's a very good point there. Microsoft's also interesting. It's hitting a whole bunch of resistances, very similar kind of double moving average sitting at previous resistance, which could act as support. Few Australians in here, and they certainly understand the the pain of what the whole bank inquiry and then it going off. So we're coming into 11 p.m. here, 10:59. So we're about half an hour off the open now. Everything will change next week for me. I think we're in daylight savings time, so all of that's going to change. Let's have a quick look around the markets, and we'll definitely look at Square and Tesla again, and DXY and a few other things, and we'll do that in just a few moments. So refresh overall, we've now got a little bit of a decline. We've obviously got US dollar probably finding some strength. Where's our dollar index? Do we have that still up? Should find some. So still trading around, is it 94.05, 94.07. So it's really found support at that key zone straight away and bounced up. That's awesome to see. It's always nice when you see bullish aggression off the right zones. Other things that are going on, I guess we've got a little bit of movements in bonds. The last couple of days, nothing crazy in the bond markets over here in terms of the notes and stuff. Whole bunch of tests of resistance, and we'll look at bonds a little bit more later probably. But yeah, bunch of tests of resistance. Again, we'll do a whole subject and section on that during one of our live streams to show the correlation between each. I think probably the currency has been one of the best trades, and also a bunch of things against dollar strength. So overall, we saw dollar weakness. Definitely betting against the dollar has been good over the last couple of days, and now we're probably about to see that potentially reverse with the dollar hitting that key support and finding some pickup. Let's see if it can continue doing that. All right, around the markets, we'll take a look now and have a quick check out of what else has been going on. Pre-market here, just quickly loading up the kind of losers coming in. Got Brookfield Renew down 3.12, Tesla still down around 1%. And really overall, the most of them are kind of down 0.5 to not that much. In terms of notable stocks going up, we've got GoDaddy, Square still up 1.77. Probably good time for us to take a look at Square actually, because it's been a overperformer, and boy oh boy has it been a very strong overperformer recently. Very, very strong. So Square has a great resistance break at this 157 on the hour. Multiple touches. We've got previous resistances quite a lot through here. It's come back and retested it. I would have liked it to come into the bodies, didn't quite do that. So it looks like now it's really on the kind of momentum train to go and test previous highs. You would think that since it's made through the structure, that we're going to see further tests of the 170. I would not be surprised at all if Square continues its bullish momentum into upwards of this 170, especially if the market remains fairly neutralized. Okay, Shane says, Tom, can you educate the ignorant like myself? When you say trade currency, what instrument are you using? So you're just basically trading a CFD effectively, Shane, of a currency, and you're using usually quite a large amount of leverage to do so. Basically, you're trading the odd, say you're trading the odd versus the US dollar. You're effectively saying, if you want to buy that, you're effectively saying, I believe the odd or the Australian dollar is going to be stronger than the US dollar. The way it works and the way it kind of is calculated, you don't need to worry too much about that. You're basically just buying a contract long, like any other contract really in the markets. I won't go into it much more than that, but yeah. Paul Pham says, Tom, can you check out Facebook? Yeah, we can check out Facebook. Why not? It's always worthwhile looking at a lot of these big tech stocks. That's a nice little formation here. Another double bottom. More weakness in Facebook and Google than the others. Notice how the recovery is always slower. Now, if you believe this is the end of the bear bust in terms of, this little bit of a correctional dip, these stocks present a lot more value now than Apple and, of course, potentially the other ones like Amazon as well. Why is that? Well, let's just have a look at the way that the market reacted when we consider the crisis. So we had basically Apple going nuts. Apple went completely nuts. Then it really weakened off, and we saw Facebook just go mental out of the gate the last couple of days of trade there. Effectively, we've got a double bottom here. We have a lot of resistance around this 260, and we do have a double bottom. It's generally the formation at the end. What I'm getting at, though, is that we saw Facebook and Google lag the other three of the big FANG stocks, and then come through with the goods after that. So they've always traditionally lagged the other two and then been seen as the value ones, and then people pile into them. So we're seeing that again. While Apple and Amazon are doing really, really well and coming off their bases strongly, Facebook, statistically in terms of percentages, is down a lot more. So want to see it through the 258, 260 zone, come back down, test these moving averages, and you'd be looking at that long in terms of directional. Safak says, nice. Safak Demir says, nice time to buy or wait for more dips. I don't think it's a terrible time for long-term positions. Depends on what your plan is. Pa says, it's 11 p.m. for the 6 a.m. for me. Yeah, absolutely. Depends where you are in the world for sure. Don't worry, if I'm doing live streams next week, I think it'll be about, 12:30 will be the open, and it gets worse than that. I think it becomes 1 something. Kim Lim, can you please look at BHP? So BHP is a good one because it's something a little bit different from the norm. Now BHP, the one I'm looking at here, should be the ASX version, but it is in America as well on the stock exchange there, and it's also in Britain and I think it's in some of Europe. It's basically split between a whole bunch of them. So overall, BHP is an iron ore miner. I've been a bit of a fan of buying iron ore miners over in this period. I think they were providing pretty good opportunities while the rest of the market wasn't really seeing it yet. Then it went crazy, and then of course it's pulling back down now. Now you want BHP to hold around this 36 bucks. Why is that? Because BHP has a tendency to definitely dump fairly hard, and if it gets through this 36 kind of 50 zone, it could certainly sell straight back into the 35 very quickly, which is a multiple percentage sell-off. 35 is superior support though. Multiple previous supports through this crisis, a little bit of resistance around that 35, always slightly above it, is always going to be a strong point for BHP. So could find further weakness here. We've got cross of the 2050, and I think it could certainly come back down to the 35 kind of zone. If you look at its kind of other brother, which would be Rio, Rio's already found really key support here on the 95.70. We had a 0.76 down day today. If it breaks down further, Rio moves even more aggressively. 92, great zone. Previous resistance, previous support, could be previous support again. Go over to the weekly. Pretty much already we should be finding support here, but I could see even a 92 buy zone for Rio. Overall, it's been trading pretty large range as well for this particular stock. So a quick look around the markets. Let's now take a look at what's happening on the Nasdaq as well, and we'll look at the structure that's going on there. I think overall the Nasdaq has obviously been the best, well, not only the best investment, but some pretty good TA on it, and it's always worthwhile looking at. Very similar, we have a double bottom formation in the S&P. We've hit kind of almost close to the zone. I've pretty much said on a few occasions that we have a range up here that becomes incredibly important. So we have this 11.6 to 11.500 area. This area here, if we break through and we close above, so we close above this zone, then all of a sudden we're looking at pullbacks to this zone and really huge tests up to at least the 12,200. I know that seems like a big call, but this market structure here is really, when it gets through this area, very pivotal, calling very large longs. And that's because it's thought about this, and this is usually the type of thinking process that you see after a dip. And of course the dip then happens, it accumulates, the market gets in, the participants get in, they push it through onto the next area. So 12,200 could certainly be in for the US 100 here. $77, $4. Thank you very much, $77. Always appreciate your support of the channel. Very, very great. So thanks very much for that, mate. FMG doing so well. Yeah, FMG is another stock in Australia. Very, very crazy stock. And this one particularly, iron ore miner, owned by Twiggy, pushed very, very high. You can see it was more aggressively sold off. Pretty big support here around the 15 for FMG. I could see further downside there. US home prices rose 4.8% in July, says Shane. 4.8% in 1 month. Is that true, Shane? That's pretty huge. Buzzblade says the trend lines. Yeah, there is trend lines on that stock. I won't look at FMG too much. So US 500 hitting the 20 exponential moving average. Obviously, we do expect some weakness into today's session. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see a 33.30, 33.20 handle somewhere in this rectangular zone. We'll definitely draw that up when we put them side by side in only a few minutes. You don't want to use whatever that is. We're going to use our rectangle tool. Really like drawing rectangles in the market and making sure that you have a zone or an area that you set your alert for. Never just pick a straight price. I'm sure we've all been there as traders and as investors. We pick that straight price and then all of a sudden we just basically try to scalpel that price and we just don't do as well as we think we would. It's not always the best. Sama San Kappa. Just about every stream, there are 3 people who give Tom the thumbs down. Honestly, why watch if you don't like it and keep coming back? I don't think it's, yeah, look, it's unfortunate, but it's the way of the things. Of course, not everyone's going to agree with you. You might say something about a stock, especially in TA, and if someone else is in it, ooh, and they don't agree with you, that's not going to work out well. So yeah, that's all good. Jason Burt says, not unusual. Facebook and Google get beaten down on bad news. Always good for value if the fines aren't excessive from litigation shenanigans. Absolutely. So the stocks overall with Facebook and Google, of course, all their litigation, all of their so-called losing marketing. We all know that's going to come back. Long term, they're going to have the marketing come back. The question is, what are the rules that are going to be imposed on them, and also whether Facebook and Amazon and Google are able to grow their businesses and acquire well. So a lot of people have faith in, of course, Apple and the others, but maybe not the others. Maybe not Facebook and Google right now. Jeremy Eddy says real estate sales are insane right now. Is that true? So in America, like overall, the figures are that good. Few of the American audience out there, what's going on with the real estate market in America? I expect the Australian real estate market to get very strong, especially off the lending laws. It's been weak in the area I am in Melbourne, but that's only because we're obviously in a point now of lockdown. What can you do? Bidding wars on overpriced homes. I think people are seeing it as a green light to basically take on more leverage, Jeremy. And that's why you're seeing housing increase. Basically, people that have held their jobs are seeing this as, I've got to take tons of loan. I've got to take tons of risk. Philip Lengen says, Toronto hot new highs for real estate prices. Well, Toronto in Canada was obviously very, very bullish already. And then it's very similar to Australia in that action. Yeah, generally overall, I think we're seeing a bit of bullish action across most of the Western kind of countries in housing. Again, cheap loans, cheap money, that's what we expect. Let's have a quick look here at the Fear and Greed Index. And this is a good little free resource from CNN. If you like them or not, doesn't really matter too much. This is really just a resource. So Fear and Greed Index, what's driving the market right now? And really all you're looking for is just overall, it's got quite a few handy little charts. So we've obviously seen the put-call ratios kind of drop off a little bit and stop rising. That's important. If we want a corrective phase in the markets to continue, you do not want a huge amount of puts in the market. You want lots of calls, because it always is when people least expect it that things happen. There's no coincidence that we saw puts rise super heavily, and then the market, yes, okay, people were making money for a little while here, but the puts went even crazier into, of course, the March area, and then we had the spike up. So we don't want to necessarily be doing what everyone else is doing. I use them more as a guide of when the market's going to take advantage of the situation. So in this case, puts are not super high, and they're right in the range. If we get above 0.8, I usually would think that's where we've hit bottom out in the market. Market momentum, all these types of indicators, yeah, they're good and everything. Not too amazing. I don't mind this oscillator either that they've got down the bottom here. So we're still seeing a little bit of a tick up here in greed. Overall, we're kind of in the middle of the range. Traditionally, during bigger pullbacks, we've seen a higher level of fear. This probably shows more what the Fed is doing to the market, what this Fed stability is doing to the market. People believe in the Fed a lot. Remember, QE is technically not inflationary. We've seen that in Japan. You look at Japan, it has not done well off quantitative easing. Did I look at gold yet? Yeah, I did have a look at gold, but I'll check it out again. So gold, weekly 20 exponential moving average, pretty much as we expected from before. We've got two kind of moving averages here. We've got the 20 and the 50 right around that previous market structure support. So the 1920 was a super key area in terms of bodies. We do have wicks though around the 1900 flat, and that's going to be a psychological area as well. So if gold was to sneak up there, I would not be surprised to see resistance at around that 1900 zone. Right around here where previous sup, then broke through. There's a little bit of wicks up here, broke through and found the point. We did have a double bottom here. We do have some strength. We expect the market to find some buying pressure around 1873, and then of course the selling pressure to come in just underneath 1900. Probably seeing around this area, there should be some selling pressure if it does manage to get up there. Overall, silver probably had the better TA on it than gold. Silver is also well more beaten down than gold overall as well. Steve Porozink. I'm not sure, Steve. I probably butchered your last name there. And $77 say the same thing. Inventory shortage is driving up prices, and low inventory in the US is an easy money to get. So yeah, same thing. You're really seeing a huge amount of reduction in houses. People don't see it as a good time to sell. So obviously that's why you are not necessarily looking at the best kind of prices in the real estate market. People are demanding it, and there's just none out there. What ASX real estate stocks would you target, says Matthew here? It depends what you're looking at. So if you're looking at commercial, totally different. You usually go a lot of off-market kind of things and unlisted kind of positions. But if you're looking at builders, then things like Lend-Lease and stuff are always interesting to look at. I think they're going to find it very tough, though. Apartment market's stuffed in Australia. Siddharth Morley, home prices are up due to scarcity and increase in population. It's one of the things that definitely does bring it around. So we're here at 13 minutes till open. Obviously want to do a market check again. We'll bring up both charts side by side. We'll obviously do our normal thing of looking at a 15-minute coming into the open. I am kind of interested in the first 15 minutes to half an hour of trade today, just to see whether the market starts positively like it's usually been doing in the retail kind of segment, that first hour, or whether we start out of the gates a little bit more negatively than normal. So definitely will be an interesting first half an hour of trade, I think. Another thing that you can always do as well is you might want to always look on finbiz.com. You can look at the news screener here, go through a whole bunch of the different information that comes out each day. Only use news as a little bit of a term, a little bit of a helper to find out whether you maybe find some interesting article or something like that. I find that overall doing your fundamental analysis and doing your TAs for your key levels is going to help you a lot more than the noise that's here. It's not bad though if you're a bit bored. If you want to have a look at, obviously, previous performance, if we look at weekly performance here, again, instantly you can see a few things and maybe even start to look at sectors that you want to target. So I think 1 month performance probably makes the most amount of sense to target here and to have a look at. So we've got Google and Facebook historically still quite low. We've obviously got Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft that have pulled back a lot off last week. And things like Intel, which was a company that was beaten down, is finding quite a lot of buying support, being that value stock. People are starting to get back into that one a little bit. Banks continue to be poor investments. They probably will continue to be so. And overall, I think that, things like consumer defensives, they don't look too interesting to me right now. You look at that over a 6-month performance chart and you'll notice that you're not really getting a huge amount of discounts over here. That's for sure. Sweetenings says, is market going to sell off? Wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a market correction, as in like a little bit of a market sell off today ahead of the debate. Maybe some people taking some information off there. Check out Apple into the open as well. We definitely will. So this question here is from C. Howard Sin. Basically, we have Apple is pretty interesting to a lot of people, and we are trading fairly aggressively, I think, on Apple overall. Sentiment's still very bullish on this one. Double basically low. Hit that 103. I really expected it to come to structure at 100. I'm really disappointed we didn't get that 100 for a couple of reasons, but I definitely was hoping we'd get about 101 on Apple. We have so many moving averages here, very similar to the other story. Pullback would make sense into the 111, 112 area, 50, 200, and the 20 moving average, all at a very nice zone. Previous market supports as well. It's a pretty key area, pretty nice area. Makes sense why it was resistance. Now it would make sense why it's support. Very, very much like that support into resistance zone. Cool. Not bad, not bad. Few people talking about airlines out there. Yep. Airlines, as you would well know, is my most hated sector in the stock market. The main reason is I dislike very much the idea of something going on where the market basically falls low. Oh, sorry, like something falls out of the sky and then all of a sudden you get crashed 20, 30%. It can completely destroy your stock in one day through no fault of anything. So yeah, airplanes are I always think about risk on stocks, and that's certainly one I don't like. Shane Coble says, Tom, did Apple hit 103 intraday? It hit 103 in one of our live streams. Yeah, just before the market, we saw it was, I remember, it was happening about 45 minutes before the market opened. We had the 103.50 handle. I was pretty sad too because I really wanted it to get down to this market structure. I just thought that was a very cool zone. It doesn't matter though. Like, I mean, the thing is, whenever you're looking at TA or you're looking at any stock, well, guess what? The great thing is you have another opportunity. And overall, that's all that matters. There's always another opportunity. Never get just, I have to have that stock. If you have to have that stock and you're looking at a 10-year approach, why does it matter whether you buy it at 105, 103, or 100? It's only a couple of percent. But if you're trading it, price matters. Matthew Tainish, $5. Thank you very much, Australian. Keep it up, he says. Thank you very much there, Matthew. Oh, Tainch, sorry. I mispronounced it this time, Matthew. But thank you very much for that. We'll go towards the coffee fund for sure, mate. Appreciate it as always. Dr. Horton says, semiconductors in general doing well. US put restrictions on China SMIC. Very important, these new restrictions that we're going to see coming in from all governments around the world. Let's have a look just in general at Intel. So Intel, one second. I saw that. I was like, what the hell chart is that thing? All right, so Intel is not what the one we were looking at before. We've got really nice buying out of this area here. Now, I've mentioned this a few times. We have a point of beautiful accumulation around that 48. Heaps of buying momentum, heaps of pressure coming in through here. We also have this 52, 58 area, and that's where the gap happened. So what do we think about price here? What do we think is going to happen if Intel can get back above this zone? Well, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Intel bulls into this zone, finds some form of resistance, creates some kind of market structure. If it coils around this area, that'd be really awesome. And when it breaks through here, there's a clear target around that 57 to 57.50. Very clear target. Really, really, really good area. And I really like the support here. I think you can always bet on Intel coming back from not doing so well, but at this point, Intel is not looking so good. Cam says, congrats on 20K. Thank you very much, Cam. Now, for anyone that's looking for the giveaway and everything like that, we will be doing it in tomorrow's video, or in terms of you can enter for it. We couldn't pull the subscriber list, unfortunately, so if you comment on tomorrow's video, I'll mention the keyword to put in. We'll be doing a draw of that the following day, and of course, giving away that $520 to put towards your trading account. It's as easy as that. Obviously, you should be subscribed as well. That'd be awesome. Brian, that's what we had to do. We couldn't pull a subscriber list. They've stopped me from being able to pull it out. I couldn't do it. YouTube have literally stopped it. So that's what we're going to have to do. Which means if you comment tomorrow, you're going to have a very good chance of winning it. You're much better than 1 in 20-something thousand. What do I think of air? Good question here, Project. What do you think of airport stocks? They are beaten down as airlines, but they are basically have a monopoly. They really do. It all comes down to debt on airlines. So we've got Sydney Airport is a classic case in Australia, and you can see that people are starting to think about this again. They're like, might be some value in these stocks. What's their debt look like? They've got monopolies. These guys can charge whatever they want over the long term. People will fly. They can charge their hangars. The big problem is they're losing airlines. So in Australia, quite a few airlines have gone bust, and that is going to hurt them overall. But yes, they are monopoly effectively on their area. I don't think you're ever going to see them go back to these crazy prices again, but overall, they are monopoly. They meet many criteria, and debt is your main concern. whenever you're doing that analysis. 4 minutes now before the market opens. Let's get up our spreader for both. Let's bring up the US 100. We'll take a look at dollar index coming in as well. Better get onto a few of these things and get ready for the market open. So we'll load up 2 charts next to each other. We'll bring on the US 500 on the left-hand side, and we'll have US 100. We do need to look at Bitcoin as well and check out that a little bit later on. So we've got the markets coming down a little bit more actually now. We're getting some sell-off here. Remember, we do expect some form of pretty much selling pressure into potential buying pressure around these key zones in the first minutes of trade. So let's check that out. Keep those questions coming in. I'll answer as many as I can. Sorry, I haven't looked at some other people's stocks. It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I've got to keep as much going as we can. So yeah, I like airport stocks. They are monopolies, but I think I would be looking at their books and their cash flow. So 11:27 p.m. coming into the market open. Van Katramana Dodler. Sorry, just joined. Dollar looks like developing an inverted head and shoulders pattern on monthly. Can you check me? I'll check it out on the monthly. Wow, that would be pretty wild on the dollar. But dollar is definitely at the sup level. So DXY is your dollar code, and overall it's right at that support level. So 3 minutes now to the open. Dollar index still trading above the 94. Bounced straight off that 50 exponential based on around the 94 and found some form of buying pressure. Definitely check this one out as well. We'll load that onto a 15-minute and come back and see how that's trading in just a few minutes. So we'll see how that comes into open, see if it puts pressure back down into the 19380 or it likes its current zone. So yeah, both markets here, little bit of selling pressure, decent amount. It's almost every time there's 15 minutes here on the Nasdaq. Every single time we have these annoying 15-minute kind of support, body closes, and resistance up here, and we kind of trap the market. That being said, remember what I always say, 15-minute is not the time frame it used to be. 15 minutes used to be the best. It used to be a great scalping time frame on indices and things like that. Nowadays, it's filled with fake outs because of the stupid algorithms. Stud 1664. I don't think I'll answer that one, but it certainly could. We'll have to have a look at what the S&P does, and we'll definitely be checking it out more. Pavel, evening Tom, thank you very much. Kim Lim says, same as Transurban, TCL. Yeah, they've certainly got a massive monopoly as well. But at the same point, they're for some reason holding a lot better, I guess because they still are receiving cash flow. Victor says, yes, I want to ask the same question about airports. Few people getting on these airports, fair enough. For long-term investment, next 20 to 30 years. Again, all about the cash flow. And how many airplanes went bankrupt in your country. That's pretty important as well, because remember they charge everything going in. So here we go. We're getting into the bell time. We're at 129.41. I'll just quickly load up everything I need. And let's get hyped. Everyone ready for the countdown? We've got only 10 seconds now till the open. And we're about to see what the market has in store for us this Tuesday. All right. Get ready, get set. There we go. Opening up. Got our bell setting up. Oh, yeah. I can just feel it. There's a new IPO coming out every day. Speaking of which, IPOs could be super hot coming into the next couple of years. I think you're going to see a lot of lists on the market for a whole bunch of possibly not even profitable companies, but definitely hyped companies. So here we are. We're open. We put some downward pressure instantly. And then, of course, didn't make even a new low in terms of wick. And then found some buying. We'll check out this first 5 minutes on these charts. It's always pretty interesting. We generally get decent moves in the first half an hour to hour. Dr. Horton coming in with a whole bunch of the bells. Thank you very much, Doctor. Whole bunch of new people here today, so thank you very much. Remember, if you comment on tomorrow's video and use the word that I'll put in the first one, you'll go into the prize draw to win $520. Obviously, it would be preferred you're a subscriber as well. Definitely check that out. Thomas Love says Sydney Airport has Badgerys Creek coming up as long-term competition. Yep, important. And I think costs are going to be a big thing as well. Buzz Blaze says, don't forget to smash that like button. Absolutely, Buzz. The more people that smash it, the more it helps this channel and we can get more of these live streams on. Suman says, first comment, I enjoyed the session. Thank you very much, Suman. Always good to do these pre-analysis sessions. So we do expect some weakness coming in the market here today down into previous kind of resistances. To show you what that might look like, on the 1 hour here, we have previous resistances of the 33.30 zone, and that's the same area we've got this 50 exponential on the futures trade. So we might see some weakness coming in here from that point. At that point, we would expect some buying pressure to come into the market. Really, remember, technical analysis is all about finding similarities, finding as many reasons to be in a position, and then trading statistics off those areas. So you know that when certain market structure happens, it's a way higher percentage chance of being successful. All right, let's have a quick look around the markets as well. We'll bring in the percentage changes coming in. Looks like Zoom is coming in slightly negative, but not much. So negatives to note today in terms of the bigger caps. These are the ones that we've got going off. Baidu, of course, down about 0.9. Tesla coming in at a 1% down. We are seeing some moves going on there. Cisco, 0.72. Cisco still must be in some form of decent potential buy zone in terms of value long term. Doesn't mean it's the right kind of time right now for that. Overall positives. We've seen Discovery go up quite a few days now in a row. This stock's been on a bit of a tear. Roku, coming off a pretty nice move, is still pulling up. And AMD still a bit of a fan as well in terms of overall markets. So quite a lot of market pressure there. We still haven't seen too much going on. Basically a bit of a move up, bit of a move down. And overall, the market is relatively flat. Let's have a look at dollar, because it looked like dollar was coming under some pressure before. So dollar continues now making a new low and possibly going back down to the pure structure at 93.80. So continued US dollar weakness now, new low formed. That's probably the story we're seeing. VIX coming in. Is that any good? Let's see what the VIX is doing on, we'll go to the hour. So some VIX spiking pressure coming through. Use a different VIX. Use the CBOE VIX here. So overall, pretty much not too much going on there. Makes sense. The market has not tanked yet. Still trading in range here for the US 100. DXY probably still the most interesting thing. Go quickly load up our copper chart as well. See whether that's giving us any preliminary force. Is that a falling knife, says Jason Burt. On which one, Jason? Let us know. Oops. So quick thing you want to do is if you're ever typing in copper, type it in, press enter quickly. And then that will bring up your proper copper chart futures here. A little bit of a tip we actually learned from some of the community. So thank you very much for that. So we're still putting pressure on the 2.95, trading at 2.96. Remember, closed body underneath this 50 exponential, probably pretty bearish for copper, back into the 280. If we are sitting at 280 and we have similar market prices than right now, that's a very bearish sign. Copper is always a great lead in these kind of market conditions. Still trading within ranges here. No body close either way. 10 minutes off the 15-minute close. Definitely be looking at those. Jonathan Doe, Tom, how about DHT, I think it is, tanker stock and cash flow long-term position, huge dividend. Yeah, not probably one for me, that one, but I know there's high risk, high reward plays there, Jonathan. I'd have to do a bit of research on whether I like that. Shane Coble comes in, Hertz, Kodak, Enron, and then he says Tesla. Oh, that's a big call there, Shane. You sure you want to make that thought public? Well, the Tesla buyers won't be liking that comment. If anyone doesn't know what Enron is, definitely look up Enron. It's worthwhile learning about the experience of Enron. Look at NVIDIA. I can see a channel up. Well, I think it'd be worthwhile. We'll come back to this in 15 minutes. A lot can change, as we know, in the market open. Roman says, have we looked at gold today? Yep, Roman. So we looked at gold. We're looking at 1900 as potential resistance there with weaker dollar and finding some kind of resistance. And we're looking at obviously buying up off that double bottom, which is pretty much completing at that point. So let's load up NVIDIA now. One of the favorites, one of the things that everybody is always looking at in the markets, as it's such a popular stock right now. Huge demand for their video cards. Someone mentioned that there was a channel. Who said this? Sweetenings. Yeah, absolutely. There is. You can see it straight away if you look at any of the time frames. We have clear resistance coming through here, and we've got a very nice level of support that's come through as well multiple times. So definitely a clear channel here on NVIDIA. In terms of expectations here, Sweetenings, what we're looking at is a movement up, and notice how it predicts the previous body. So if we get a break close above here, we could see a very aggressive move on NVIDIA. And these are all pretty bullish signs for the market. These are all bullish moves. Everything can reject very, very quickly, but at this stage, we're at critical points here for NVIDIA, and it looks like it wants to kind of target that 570. Let's have a look at Disney as well. It always reminds me for some reason, I want to look at Disney when we're looking at NVIDIA. I have no idea why. Probably just because I've got Disney on the mind. So I would like to see Disney come back down again here. I'm pretty happy with where it got to the other day, though. I got no problems with the 121. Disney still has so many problems in its business in terms of what's going on. But this 120 zone, multiple resistances, we've talked about that area so many times. We put a line through here, it'll make more sense. Resistance, resistance, resistance should have acted as support, and most likely will again. So if it does continue falling down here, the market dips over, I still expect strong buying presence for Disney around the 120. Beyond, the old meat stock, fake meat stock. So Beyond's actually been a great technical. We mentioned this in, was it last week's live session? Someone brought this up. Beautiful accumulation zone off the 120. What great level. Resistance becomes support multiple times over, breaks through the 142 and closes above that zone, comes back and retests, and then now is testing resistance at the 166. Because it stopped a little bit earlier, you would expect this actually to be a break. Another key technical line that you always want to look at is when it comes into the 160 and it hits that zone, notice how that's before previous resistance. That's pretty key. When you see the accumulation of the market before that point, often the next move breaks through. It's basically said we're accumulating below, getting all our indicators, getting all our pressure ready, and then when we blow out, we're going to blow out above the previous resistance. So Beyond looks like it's going to go rocket shipping up. It already has, but yeah, great market structure here. Very, very nice. I cannot remember the person's name, but we did talk about this, and I really love that type of pattern formation. It's very similar to what you're seeing on Intel if it breaks above as well. Sweetening says a clear trend line on NVIDIA. And Siddharth Morley says DXY 93.85 before lightening up. Yeah, 93.80, 93.85, Siddharth. I'm certainly looking at that. I think dollar is probably one of the most interesting things here for today's trades. Dollar index continuing its weakness down, which will put bullish momentum on a whole bunch of others. Shane, activating the Kramer again. Thank you very much, Shane. Night Troops, he says, happy hunting, increased your prize, courtesy of the ASX BTH. You love that stock, don't you? All right, Shane, I'll add it in. Thanks very much, mate. You're making it difficult. I'm getting like a strange version of the prize. I probably should split it, man, and put it into the next one. But no, I appreciate that. I will put it towards it. Hear that? $540 giveaway tomorrow now instead of $520. Both Both of those 20 bucks provided by Shane, by the way, so you can be appreciative towards him. I'll be giving that away tomorrow. Got further all this bearish pressure coming here, so we're about to hit the 93.95 on US dollar. Let's take a look at the markets, see how they're reacting to that. Overall, not too much. So we are seeing a bit of a lackluster kind of morning open. Still wouldn't be surprised to see some late selling. Remember, the last hour of trade is actually not the most fun hour of trade, but it's the area where you usually see a whole bunch of bigger moves from the big players. That's where they rebalance and do everything. Drew says, slow morning. Absolutely, Drew. We didn't really expect much else, did we? Let's see if this 15-minute bearish pressure comes in, though, and closes low. Because if we close low, I think we could have a nice little sell-off into those points. Siddharth Mully says, Shane is the super chat goat. He certainly is, Siddharth. He's literally buying my coffee addiction almost every time, so I do appreciate that. Sweetening says, I'm so glad I bought Nvidia. Where did you buy it, Sweetenings? Did you get it at 20 bucks? And I have a couple of other questions coming in here as well. Sweetening says, I was really hoping for Amazon under 2,800, Apple under 103-ish, Tesla under 355. We kind of got Tesla. It hit that zone. Etsy under 100, Redfin under 45. Roman Blaine says, bought Disney yesterday at 121, added to my position. Nice work, Roman. Nothing wrong with Disney long term. Zalef says, what do you think of cruise line stocks, i.e. Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian? On the 30th, the CDC decides if they will allow cruising in the US again. Previously, they prolonged the cruise ban. I think the big problem is how many people are really going to go back on the cruises instantaneously due to this, current crisis and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't. That being said, I'd go on like a fishing charter, so I'm not sure. But I wouldn't probably go on a cruise myself. I'd be interested to know if they get their audience back and they get their numbers back. It will be an important announcement, Zalef, not something that interests me over the longer term. The debt-ridden companies in there, the cash flow problems they could have, the sustained issues they could have is too much risk for me. But that's only my opinion. It doesn't mean there's not short-term opportunity there. Siddharth Mully says, can't believe people are eating these chemical burgers. It's so bad for you. Yeah. Are they real? How many of these are bad and how many are good, Siddharth? I'm sure some aren't as bad as others. Peck says, cruisers gonna cruise. Yes, they will. Philip Legend says, cruises scary. How many people will jump on a cruise? Well, I guess if they make the deal right, they'll probably all go on. Buzzblad says, I wouldn't be caught dead on a cruise line, no pun intended. I don't know. I think the publicity to me, I'd be like out on the beach, and that's cool with me. I would even get on a plane, but for some reason the cruise, the idea of 7 days stuck with everybody else on the cruise in the same pool and then potentially get sick. Oh my God, the worst. All right, here we go. 15-minute close. So we are seeing that selling pressure come in here. 30 seconds till the close. Can it hold the low on the Nasdaq? Remember, the close is everything. It's always the key to all of your TA analysis. Zalef says people have short memory. I totally agree with you. Look at all the scandals in cars. You often have, I think Toyota had the seatbelt scandal. You had the scandal, obviously, with Volkswagen. They dumped the price. Nice buys off that area. People will forget about it. That being said, are you prepared to hold it for that period of time? Cash flow is still a very big key there, Zalef. I want to see good balance sheets, kind of the ability for them to obviously get their debt under check. Drew Donovan says, I hear you guys have good coffee here in Australia. Melbourne is known as one of the best. So we've got this little bit of bearish close here on the Nasdaq. Now we need to see a new low. It's not a perfect, nice confirmation low like we wanted, but there is some bearish pressure coming in. Let's see if we get it further going on. Yeah, Melbourne is the coffee capital, man. We are a bit too arrogant about it, to be honest. but it's there. Dollar index, let's have a look at that. 93.94, so further bearish dollar index price. Let's have a quick look here at Bitcoin as well coming in. If you're not a fan of cryptos, or even if you are a fan of cryptos, I think Bitcoin is providing some amazing opportunities in terms of technicals. And I don't like, there we go. We use Bitfinex. So overall, Bitcoin is really strong at this 10K base. We've spoken about this heaps of times. The multiple buying wicks off the 10K. It couldn't even get down to the 10K last time. Kind of went against overall the US dollar. I would have expected this to actually be buying stronger here. But a break above this 11,200 zone really signals straight to 12K again. I really believe that this zone is such a key pivotal area for Bitcoin. We get through that, get through all the previous support, which became resistance, be quite strong. Gunnar says gold and silver. Yeah, let's have a quick look around the gold silver markets just to quickly check them out. So gold bulling up as expected. Still want to hope to get that a little bit higher. Around that 1900 would be a good level for that to potentially find some resistance. And silver, obviously we talked about it before, continuously finding bullish momentum. Had a really nice base, nice kind of area. Expect that to get back into this market structure here. And we talked about that even during this session. So hopefully it gets back into this 24 kind of 20 zone. Could definitely find resistance there. Let's have a look back over these markets. Yeah, pretty much just now buying up. We just don't have a strong scalp or intraday trading signal right now. No strong buy, no strong sell. Domesticated Tiger says strong reversal candles on ES 15 minutes. Absolutely. Definitely looked at Apple as well. Ove says, don't you think private long-haul flights and blue water yachts could be an area of interest? Look, they could be. It's probably not for me, and that's why I don't really look at it too much. Again, I just don't like the risks. I just find there's so much easier ways of investing. But that doesn't mean that it's not opportunity. It's just harder. Kyle says cruises are for people who don't know how to travel. Oh, all right there, Kyle. I don't know about that, man. They're all right. Cruises are all right. Nothing wrong with them. Zalef says Neo is up today while Tesla is down. Usually Neo follows Tesla. Are they breaking out? So if we have a look around the markets again in terms of prices, I don't think there's any clear breakouts going on in terms of those stocks. So what do we got? We got Square up 2.85. We talked about the strong technicals there on that one. That's certainly a very nice stock at the moment. Tesla and Neo, not so much overall. Not really seeing too much strength there. Zoom down 2.19 now. So definitely starting to put pressure on. Zoom is overall now trading at 476. So still not as low as that double top formation could be. So here, Nasdaq still showing a little bit more weakness than the S&P. We will watch the next 15 minutes. I want to see if we can get this close lower. Come on, let's do it. Dr. Horton says, always better to get good upside with limited volatility. Yeah, I think the key thing, and this is why I stay away from penny stocks a lot, and I mostly just treat it as like full risk money, is that if you can put, here's a crazy idea, but this is how a fund manager would look at it. If I could put 50K into Berkshire Hathaway, or 100K into, if I could make 30% off Berkshire Hathaway, and then I could make 40% off some penny stock, which one would I prefer? Now you'd say, oh, well, I think I'd prefer the 40% off the penny stock. Well, you really prefer the 30% off Berkshire Hathaway because you're doing it in a correct, easy to sleep at night, easy to manage kind of position that you can also get the volume into. So if you're a fund manager, that's the way you really think about things. The risk reward is always the key. It's the big difference that separates what the understanding of the markets. What most fund managers are doing is always thinking about risk reward and how they're going to make their 10%, 20% per annum. Logan Schmick says a prayer for Nikola investors. Oh man. Nikola, certainly a story of the year, which is not a positive story on what can go wrong when you do those kind of things. Where is that trading at? We were following, everyone was coming in talking about Nikola a little while ago. So trading at $18 now, down 3.63, and still not even down where it was previously. It's a pretty sad stock. It's probably not going to, it's going to just slowly melt down, it looks like. Is there any saving this stock anymore? I don't know, but it really doesn't meet the rules of what we talk about all the time on this channel. A few years at least in the market. We want to see a few years of the reports coming out, the financials coming out, and obviously the market testing the stock itself. Slater and Gordon's a classic case in Australia. Legal stock on the market. Was on the market for less than 5 years. Everyone thought it was great. They all thought it was earning money. It turns out it had about $150 million of bad debtors and bought too big a company and did not perform well. Domesticated Tiger says, Berkshire easy now. A lot of their assets are suddenly a little bit volatile. It was just more of an example. So here's a thing. Would I rather have my money? Let's say I could have potentially made money in Nikola and maybe made 40 or 100%. Would I rather be in Nikola or obviously hindsight's easy, but you would say at the point it looked pretty good. Nikola or Berkshire? I'd rather have Berkshire. I think that the companies inside of Berkshire are fine. Most of them are all good. Very nice. Oh, this is the wrong one. You don't want to buy that one. That one's a bit too expensive. We want Berkshire B here. So, yeah, didn't quite get down to that 200 price target that we hoped the other day as well. But overall, this has had some really nice trades on it. 200 is still a really nice price target for this particular stock. Dr. Horton says, which is why retail traders can outperform the institutional, taking the extra risk. I'd probably say that, Dr. Horton, but the other thing that retail traders can do that's so successful is that we aren't maintained to certain bandwidth. So like say ARK Investment's a good case. They had to clip their Tesla holding. They may have wanted to anyway, but you usually have like restrictions on how much one share you can hold, how much you can hold as a percentage in a certain risk, your risk profile overall. That's why you can outperform a lot of hedge funds and fund managers. They have to have certain risk profiles and go within those parameters. You can still buy super high quality. You can potentially slightly leverage super high quality, but I would always super high quality leverage before I take a penny stock. Chris says, how could a law firm not be raking it in when you pay about $750 million for goodwill and you buy a company? Here's another thing I learned in that whole crisis. If a company buys a company bigger than it, absolute disaster. Almost every time I've ever done analysis on that. If a company buys a company bigger than itself, wow. Kyle says, I held SGH, which is Slater and Gordon, at $6, sold out at $5. Soon after, it was 20 cents. Yep, and it was split to about 1 cent, Kyle. Siddharth Molly says, an EV company founded by a guy with no science background is genius. MC says, thanks for your time tonight, Tom. Awesome as always. Have to head off. Catch up with vid tomorrow. Absolutely. Remember to post that comment in. We'll probably be finishing up here in about 5 minutes, I think. I want to see these closes. If we see fireworks into the closes, we see bearish momentum, we'll probably stick around for a little bit longer. But it's all about this US 500 and obviously NAS. I want to see this Nasdaq continue to reject. Let's see if we can get down to those points. I'd love to have that 11.2 area retested and finding support there. Roman says ARK had 15% of their portfolio in Tesla. They sold some at $500. Yep, why not? But they definitely would have had to rebalance that. Domesticated Tiger, here's a good question. I had a long conversation with a former Wall Street exec. We talked about how different the markets were from even when she was big time in the same as the 90s and 2000s. Absolutely, yeah. The markets have changed a lot. I mean, we can see that with the pits. It used to be the pits were big trading. There was definitely market human psychology going on there. Now there's a lot of algorithms. So you need to understand the technicals and overall fundamentals as well. $77 again with the support. Appreciate that, Sandola. $5. Keep it up, sticker. Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it. So we're coming 4 minutes in here before the close. We are seeing some selling pressure come into the Nasdaq. All right, I'm excited. Let's see if we can get this going on. I would like to see the selling pressure come in. The good thing is if it's led by the Nasdaq as well, it's usually more aggressive. Malachi Abbott says, what would you classify as a penny stock? Ooh, that's a good question, because obviously what most people classify a penny stock and me is a little bit different. I would probably say, for me, anything under, in the US market, under $1 billion. I know that's a lot of money, but I still go under $1 billion. In the Australian market, probably about 200 million. I know that's not traditionally a penny stock, but I definitely like to have over $1 billion, if possible, in the US market. There's just so much opportunity in those $1 billion plus companies. Most people would classify it as like 10 million, 20 million, 100 million, maybe up to 200. But hey, why be like everybody else, eh? Victor says Apple gives up 144. Now, we are seeing that selling pressure on the Nasdaq, which means the tech stocks are kind of finding a little bit. But this is very slow. Remember, this is a 15-minute chart. It's more, it looks like it's moving a lot. It really isn't. Random Encounter says Tesla, the biggest penny stock available. Cannabis stocks, penny stocks. Oh, yeah, I guess so. They're just not, they're not on the market for long enough. I have traded those stocks as penny stocks, though, where I fully risked. In Australia, we had a couple of cannabis stocks come in. They went super hard, crazy, like 300%, 400%, 500% returns in a few weeks, and then dumped all those. Didn't get the highs, but definitely got some profit. That was nice. Thank you very much again, $77. Thank you for the support and assistance, he says. Thank you very much. Jeremy Eddy says, I used your advice, not advice, Jeremy, technical setups, on CRDF and waiting for confirmation around 8. Now at 12 and looking like similar technicals for a breakout. So Jeremy, did you end up getting into it at that position? Let us know if you did. Callum, same stock. Yeah, Callum knows the stock. He's Australian for sure. Camel Dilton made a mozza on ACA. Ozcan, Callum, yes. Not bad on that one, hey man. Old Ozcan, massive buyout followed by super bearish. I still remember I was on some car drive day and everyone was talking about that stock and they were all in it and obviously it got busted off hard. No one's excited ahead of this debate. You know, I almost feel like doing tomorrow's stream if we actually see some interest in the Asian-European session. We'll see whether I can bring that together. We are certainly doing a stream, though, on non-farms on Friday. That's for sure. Definitely confirmed for that one. Domesticated Tiger says 90% of the symbols, penny stocks. Yeah, I know Domesticated Tiger. I just like to stick on the big ones. Again, it's just my idea of them. Doesn't mean you can't do them. So we got the 15-minute close. We see a little bearish come in here at the 12. I even got a new low. Come on, give us a new low. Zoom this in. It'll make it go down for sure. Yep. There we go. We're going to get that down. Get down. Anyone ever yelled at the charts before? Just going like, get down or go up, please. That's always never a good sign. Siddharth Muli, I like this one. Whoever falls asleep first loses the debate. That's a good one, mate. Marlene says, good night. I'm knackered. Thank you for your analysis. No worries. Yeah, we're probably closing it up, wrapping it up here in a few minutes. We did not see any kind of interest there in terms of closes. I think on days like today, you really just set your alerts. Obviously, if you're into trading the first hour, you still stick around because you're not done. But at the same time, you knew it was probably going to be a little bit of a slow day coming into, of course, overall, the debate. Most people are worried about that. Callum Dillon, here we go. When your Uber driver and boss's wife asking about stonks, you know they are overvalued. Callum, you've learnt one of the first rules in knowing when to get out of that stock, or stonk as you call it. Absolutely. If you ever in like some kind of speculative thing, I guess a classic case would maybe be Nikola recently, and everyone's talking about it, and you go out and you hear someone say, hey, did you hear? What do you do? And you're like, I trade stocks a bit. And they're like, oh man, I want to get into Nikola. What do you think? You're like, wow, I got to get out. Get out of it right now. All right, we'll do a couple of quick requests here in terms of some stocks. Let's just quickly look at these. I know you've been asking a few times. So NAD, we'll have a look at SHLL. Tortoise acquisition, is this correct? Wowzers. So it looks like that was a wild kind of run. Is this serious? What is this thing? My God. All right, I say my God because I have no idea what's going on with this thing. And why I mean that is it's just been a bullish, crazy run. You need to know the fundamentals of this company or what the hell is going on exactly. In terms of technicals, you know, breaking down a stock like this, I often say it looks like, well, firstly, if we understand the nature of how this trades, we can maybe understand more about it. Well, it looks like last time it broke out, closed above, came back, found support. So if it again breaks out above the 55, it's quite a lot of risk here, obviously, then it would probably break out, come back down, test the 55, and you could buy it off that. You don't necessarily need to buy the breakout. Seems to sell off after whatever that is. But yeah, overall, it's very, very tough here. You'd be just looking at 55 breakout, a lot of trade in between, and it's super wild. I don't think I'd draw any strong conclusions. Coach Arian says they just voted on their merger yesterday. Is a reverse merger company. Ah, okay. I don't know this one. I don't particularly look at it. Reverse mortgage company, hey? EV is the new cannabis, says Siddharth. Absolutely. EV is the new cannabis. EV stonks. This is pretty wild. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd be in something like this. I think I would just be picking key levels. Obviously, it does like technical zones because when it sold off here, bought off super hard off that zone. So you know that it does trade technically off key areas. There was also body formations around the 40. Does it trade in $10 increments as well? Does it like the 30, the 40, the 50? No, kind of bounced through the 50, so maybe not even that. If it breaks past the 55, I'd expect it to hit 60, come back down, and then possibly buy up. Index is going bullish. All right, I think we'll wrap it up. They're going bullish, but it's super boring still. So we'll see what happens coming into the end of the day. Remember, look at the last close hour, see how the market reacts, see how, of course, the big banks and the big institutions and everyone that invests in the market end up, of course, trading. If you're interested in winning out their prize, just put in the comment section in tomorrow's video and then use the keyword that I'll put in the start of the video. And basically you'll go into the chance to get 500 and I believe 40 bucks now, Australian dollars, to go towards your trading accounts. As easy as that. Also, you need to be a subscriber. And if you want to find out more about what we do and some of the things that we have, such as our private trading community and other things, you can always check us out at, of course, fxevolution.com. There's our private trading community. You can always come in and check it out. 7-day free trial. And it's really no questions asked at that point. Reverse Company Village Beer Garden says reverse mortgage companies is a big scam to acquire homes at the expense of the elderly. Oh, I'm not even sure if I like that kind of thing, mate. Fair enough. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate everyone coming out on obviously the Tuesday rather than the Monday. The community is getting better by the day. I really appreciate that. We're going to be doing, of course, non-farm payrolls this week, possibly even tomorrow. Don't hold me to that. And we'll be doing a massive election day stream, 12 to 14 hours I hope to go for, where we go through all the election day financially and talk about the markets. There should be a lot of fireworks there. So I'll leave you with the closing scenes, and thank you very much for attending as always.